Imagine the feeling of a rope burning against your palms. You are standing on the edge of a vast emotional canyon. Locked in a relentless tug-of-war with everyone in your life. You are pulling with everything you have, trying to force your partner to be more attentive. Try to make your boss recognize your worth and straining to guide your friends toward the decisions you know are best for them. Your muscles are screaming, your breath is shallow, and your mind is a chaotic storm of what ifs and why won't they. You believe that if you just pull a little harder, if you find the right words or the perfect strategy, you can finally move them. You think your grip is what is keeping your world from collapsing into a heap of disappointment and failure. But the truth is much harsher and yet more beautiful than you can see in this moment of exhaustion. The only thing keeping you trapped in this agony is the fact that you refuse to let go of the rope. We live in a culture that obsesses over the illusion of influence. We are told from a young age that if we work hard enough and care deeply enough, we can shape the reality around us, including the behavior of other people. This creates a hidden heavy burden that Mel Robbins identifies as the primary source of our modern anxiety. It is a silent weight of overfunctioning. You aren't just living your life. You're trying to live everyone else's life for them to ensure they don't mess up the vision you have for your own happiness. This constant monitoring of others' choices is a slow-acting poison for hard enough and care deeply enough, we can shape the reality around us, including the behavior of other people. This creates a hidden heavy burden that Mel Robbins identifies as the primary source of our modern anxiety. It is a silent weight of overfunctioning. You aren't just living your life. You're trying to live everyone else's life for them to ensure they don't mess up the vision you have for your own happiness. This constant monitoring of others' choices is a slow-acting poison for R. More importantly, you finally get to see who you are without the constant distraction of fixing others. Think of the last time you felt a surge of resentment because a friend didn't invite you to a dinner or when a family member made a choice you knew would end in disaster. Your instinct was to fix it, to complain, or to manipulate the situation back into a shape that felt safe. That instinct is a cage. When you apply this theory, you simply step out of cage. You look at the situation, you feel the sting of the moment and you say to yourself, let them. This shift in perspective is cinematic in its impact on the human psyche. It is like the moment in a film where the frantic music cuts to a sudden profound silence and the protagonist finally sees the exit sign. By allowing people freedom to be exactly who they are, disappointing, flawed, or simply different, you grant yourself the freedom to no longer be responsible for their evolution. You are no longer the unpaid manager of the universe. This script will explore the deep psychological roots of why we cling to control and how the simple act of letting go can transform a life of frantic overthinking into a life of grounded, unshakable peace. We are going to dismantle the fear that tells you the world will end if you stop micromanaging it. And instead, we will discover the vibrant authentic reality that waits on the other side of surrender. The heavy ache in your chest during a disagreement isn't usually caused by the topic of the argument itself. It is the friction of two wheels grinding against one another. You believe that if you can just explain your perspective one more time using slightly different words or a sharper tone, the other person will finally see the light. You are addicted to the hope of a breakthrough that requires someone else to change their fundamental nature. This is a foundation of the struggle, the belief that your peace of mind is a hostage to the behavior of those around you. We spend years of our lives in a state of high alert, scanning the horizon for signs of trouble in our relationships, convinced that our vigilance is a form of love. In reality, it is a form of slow-motion exhaustion that drains the color from our days and the joy from our interactions. To understand the let them theory, you have to first look at the sheer amount of mental real estate you have rented out to people who aren't even aware they are occupying it. Think of the hours spent rehearsing conversations in the shower. The sleepless nights dissecting a cold look from a colleague. Or the bitterness that curdles in your stomach when a sibling makes the same mistake for the 10th time. You are trying to carry the weight of their choices, as if they were your own. This isn't just stressful. It is an arrogant assumption that you know better for them than they know for themselves. True freedom begins a moment you realize that your primary responsibility is to your own reaction, not to their action. When you stop fighting reality of who people are, you stop wasting your life force on a battle that was lost before it even began. The shift happens in small, quiet moments. It is a split second after a friend cancels plans for the third time in a month. Usually that second is filled with a rush of heat, a list of grievances, and a desperate urge to let them know how much they've hurt you. But under this new framework, you breathe into that space instead. You look at the phone, you feel a familiar sting, and you say, let them. This isn't a passive shrug of defeat. It is a powerful reclamation of your afternoon. By letting them be the person who cancels, you stop being the person who begs for time. You move from a role of a victim to the role of an observer. You are no longer trying to fix a broken dynamic. You are simply witnessing it for what it is, which allows you to decide with a clear head if this is a dynamic you even want to be a part of. This foundation requires a radical honesty about your own motives. Often we try to control others because we are afraid of the feelings or choices triggering us. If a partner is distant, we try to pull them closer because we are terrified of silence. If a child is failing, we overcoach them because we are terrified of being seen as a failure ourselves. We use control as a shield against our own vulnerability. To let them theory asks you to drop the shield. It invites you to sit with the discomfort of being uninvited, misunderstood, or even disliked. When you realize that the world does not stop turning just because someone else is making a choice you disagree with, the shield becomes unnecessary. You find that you are much stronger than you thought. Not because you won the tug-of-war, but because you finally had the courage to let go of the rope. Living this way changes the very texture of your daily life. The frantic, buzzing energy of fixing is replaced by a steady, quiet confidence. You start to notice that you have more energy for your own creative projects, your own health, and your own growth. The people around you might feel the shift, too. Some might be unsettled by the fact that they can no longer pull you into their chaos. While others may finally feel the room to breathe and grow into the space you vacated, regardless of their reaction, your path remains the same. You are no longer looking for a reflection of your worth in the eyes of a distracted or difficult person. You are finding that worth in the steady rhythm of your own breath and the quiet power of your own choices. You are learning that the most profound way to change your world is to stop trying to change everyone in it. The weight of a room can feel crushing when you enter it with a secret hope of being liked by everyone inside. This is invisible social contract we sign without realizing it. The belief that if we perform well enough, smile wide enough, and say the right things, we can control the opinions that strangers and friends hold about us. We treat social interactions like a high-stakes chess match, calculating every move to avoid the sting of judgment. But this calculation is a thief. It steals your presence, your humor, and your authenticity. When you are busy trying to manage the perception others have of you, you aren't actually there. You are a hollow shell, a mirror reflecting what you think they want to see. And that is a lonely way to exist. The let them theory acts as a sledgehammer to this social mirror. Imagine standing in a crowded party or a tense board meeting and realizing that you have zero control over the internal monologue of the people around you. Someone might think, you are too loud. Let them. Someone might find your ideas boring. Let them. Someone might misinterpret your silence as coldness. Let them. The moment you stop trying to curate your image is the moment you become truly magnetic. There's a raw undeniable power in a person who is comfortable in their own skin precisely because they are not asking for permission to be there. You realize that their opinion of you is none of your business. It is a reflection of their own history, their own biases, and their own bad morning. This freedom allows you to stop the post-game analysis of every conversation. You know the feeling. Lie in bed at 2 a.m. replaying a 3-second interaction and wondering if you sounded stupid. This is your brain trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. You cannot fix a thought that lives in someone else's head. When you embrace let them, you give yourself the grace to be imperfect. You accept that you'll be the villain in some people's stories and a footnote in others. By letting them have their wrong opinions about you, you save the immense energy it takes to defend a version of yourself that doesn't even exist. You finally have the capacity to listen, to engage, and to be curious about others. Because you are no longer defending a fortress of self-importance. In our most intimate relationships, we often confuse control with care. We think that if we worry enough about our partner's health, their career, or their habits, we are showing them how much we love them. We nag, we nudge, and we provide unsolicited constructive criticism, all under the guise of helping them become the best version of themselves. But underneath the help is a subtle corrosive message. I don't trust you, be you. This creates a dynamic of resentment where one person is always the parent and the other is a rebellious child. It kills passion. It erodes trust, and it turns a partnership into a project. Applying let them to a romantic partner is perhaps the most difficult and most rewarding stage of this journey. It means watching them make a choice you know is a mistake and staying silent. It means letting them feel the natural consequences of their own actions instead of rushing in to soften the blow. When you let them fail, you are actually giving them the greatest gift a partner can offer, dignity. You are acknowledging that they are a grown adult with their own path to walk. Paradoxically, when you stop trying to change your partner, they often find internal space they need to change themselves. The pressure cooker your expectations finally cools down. And 4. The first time in years, you can actually see the person you fell in love with rather than the person you've been trying to sculpt. This release also protects your own heart from the devastation of unmet expectations. Much of our heartbreak comes from the gap between who a person is and who we want them to be. When you say, let them be who they are, you close that gap. If they choose not to prioritize you, let them. It hurts, yes, but the pain is clean. It isn't cluttered with a frantic energy of trying to force them to care. This clarity allows you to make decisions based on reality, not potential. You stop waiting for a version of them that may never arrive and start living a life based on what is actually happening. You find that you can love someone deeply without needing to own their choices. And in that space, a new kind of intimacy, one built on respect and freedom. Finally, is room to breathe. The most difficult place to practice surrender is often the dinner table where you grew up. Family dynamics are built on decades of reinforced concrete, fueled by ancient patterns of who does what and who is responsible for whom. We walk into our parents' homes or our siblings' lives carrying a heavy bag of expectations, convinced that if we could just fix the way they communicate or way they live, our own childhood wounds would finally heal. We spend years trying to convince a parent to be more emotionally available or a sibling to be more responsible, failing to realize that our refusal to let them be exactly who they are is what keeps the wound open. When you look at a family member through the lens of who you wish they were, you are essentially mourning a ghost while ignoring the living human being in front of you. Applying the let them theory to family is an act of profound emotional maturity. It is the moment you stop being emotional architect for people who never ask for a blueprint. If your mother wants to live in a cycle of complaint, let her. If your brother refuses to take the advice that would save his finances, let him. This isn't coldness. It is the ultimate form of respect. It is acknowledging that their journey belongs to them, including the mistakes, the detours, and the stagnation. When you stop trying to manage the family narrative, you realize that you no longer have to carry the shame of their choices. You are no longer the keeper of their secrets or the fixer of their flaws. You simply become a person who is present, no longer burdened by the impossible task of saving people who are not asking to be saved. In our professional lives, we often mistake control for competence. We believe that if we don't micromanage every project, if we don't worry about every email, or we don't obsess over how our boss perceives our work, everything will fall apart. This creates a culture of frantic busyness that is actually a mask for deep-seated insecurity. We are terrified that if we let them fail, whether them as a colleague, a direct report, or even the company itself, it will be a direct reflection of our own inadequacy. This leads to burnout, a state where our nervous systems are permanently fried from trying to hold up a ceiling that was never ours to support. Stepping into a let the mindset at work is like finally turning off a high-pitched alarm that has been ringing for a decade. It means doing your absolute best, putting your soul into your craft, and then this is the crucial part, letting go of the result. If a client chooses a competitor, let them. If a coworker takes credit for an idea, let them. And then document it calmly, rather than reacting from a place of wounded ego. If the leadership team makes a strategic error you warn them about, let them. By detaching your identity from the shifting winds of corporate politics and outcomes, you become the most valuable person in the room, the one who is calm, objective, and focus on the work rather than the drama. You find that you have more creativity because your brain isn't being used as a storage unit for resentment. We live in an era of constant digital intervention. Every time we open our phones, we are invited to have an opinion on things that have absolutely nothing to do with us. We are encouraged to be outraged, to call out and to fix the world from our keyboards.